there, middle school scholars, and welcome to another episode of Learning Across Kansas. I'm your host, Mrs. Smoke, and I'll be guiding you through this learning journey across the Sunflower State. Learning Across Kansas is a partnership between the Kansas State Department of Education and the Kansas Public Broadcasting Service. Together, we want to ensure that your education continues as we deal with social distancing and the health issues facing our society. In today's show, we'll unpack the power of creativity and innovation through a common story every Kansan knows, The Wizard of Oz. No, we won't be seeking tornadoes as a mode of transportation anytime soon, but we'll be exploring how thinking, feeling, and having a courageous spirit helps Kansas move forward. First, we'll explore how murals play an important role in preserving culture and beautifying Kansas communities with Mrs. Farha. And we'll hear from Mr. Goody on how Pittsburgh, Kansas embraced the engineering process for design initiatives and community revitalization. Next, we'll visit Mrs. Hillman's backyard to investigate how creativity and innovation set the stage for scientific wonders and discovery. Then we'll pop over to Mrs. Bowden's and see how mathematicians use creativity in the problem-solving process. Later, we'll travel through Kansas innovation history with Mr. Barrickmo and learn how creativity, language arts, and a little origami magic go hand in hand with Mr. Wolf. And finally, Coach Martinez will challenge you to an innovator's home workout, and Counselor Schrader will link how creativity, innovation, and self-efficacy are the keys to pursuing your own passions and interests. But first, let's head down the yellow brick road with Mrs. Farha.
Imagine, if you can, a world without color.
I don't think we're in Kansas anymore.
Thank goodness in Kansas, we don't have to. The movements to beautify our communities can be seen from big city to small, Wichita to Kansas City, even in our state capital. The murals have brought life to previously struggling areas. The new aesthetics encourage people to come together and see joy in their own neighborhood. The Douglas Design District in Wichita is one area that has seen a major growth in outdoor art over the past 8 years. The district spans 3 miles along Douglas Avenue in central Wichita and boasts over 100 different murals from doors to entire sides of buildings. Each year in September, during the annual Avenue Art Days, the public can watch the transformation as muralists create their masterpieces live over the course of 3 days. The art doesn't stop on buildings. You can also find 10-foot-tall Keeper of the Plains statues throughout the city. Together, Wichita works with local artists to create one-of-a-kind pieces that showcase different elements of the city and businesses. There are currently over 35 unique statues that span from east to west. Wichita also has a world record-setting mural that is the largest in the world completed by a single artist. The mural on the side of the Beechner grain elevator took 2 years to complete and brings unity to the African American and Latino populations. Maybe you're ready to create something to bring joy and beauty to the area where you live. You might be lucky enough to have a space to add something permanent. Or you might have a fence calling out for some sidewalk chalk. Always remember to ask. Use masking tape to create a geometric design and fully color in each part. Remove the tape and enjoy your creation.
Hey guys, I'm Mr. Goody. Have you ever had a problem and didn't know how to solve it, and then had an aha moment and then solved it? Chances are you use the engineering design process. The engineering design process is a series of steps that we solve everyday problems with. The first stage, define the problem. The second stage is the brainstorm and come up with multiple solutions. Once you have come up with multiple solutions, you're going to go ahead and pick your best solution. After you pick the best solution, you're going to go forward and create a prototype. Then once the prototype is finished, you're going to look for any other things that you can do to improve it, and then go back through the cycle and start again with your problem again. Pittsburgh, being a small town in southeast Kansas, is wanting to move forward in the 21st century. During this time, a new vision took place. Imagine 2030. This vision had 6 areas of focus: housing, economic development, public wellness, the infrastructure, education, and marketing. Now, utilizing this process, Pittsburgh is on a brand new path to great things. We solved some of our own problems with cats not having any toys to play with. Check it out. The cats having no toys around the house was our problem. We sat around, talked about it, and decided that we're going to make our own cat toys. Once we talked about what we wanted to do, we decided on our final solution. The last step was to make a prototype. Now it's your turn. See what else you could solve by using the engineering design process. Until next time, be kind, everyone.
Isn't it incredible how reimagining spaces can completely transform and revitalize a community? I wonder how your community is looking to innovate and how your own creative thinking can play a role in that. Now, let's head back out on the yellow brick road towards Olathe, where Mrs. Hillman will show us how wonder and discovery are linked to creativity and innovation. Then we'll visit with Mrs. Bowden in Wichita to see how mathematicians use creativity in the problem-solving process. And we're off.
Hey Kansas scholars, today we're going to be studying creativity and innovation. We're going to put both to work. We are going to create a mini journal that we can place into our larger journal. And there we're going to notice and we're going to wonder to get our creative juices flowing right here in a backyard. Today we're going to use innovation that will make my natural world and also my human community a little bit better. Shout out to an attitude of gratitude. Let's get to work.
Creativity, the act or capability of creating or conceiving something original or unusual in a situation. Ways to be creative. Remember to be authentic, original, and even unusual. To be creative, I want you to notice and wonder. The way to do this? Make lists. Carry a notebook. Limit your technology. Be open. Listen to music. Listen in quiet. Meditate. Surround yourself with creative people and don't be afraid to make mistakes. Go somewhere new. Take breaks and just come back to it. Take risks. Don't give up. Innovation is the implementation of something new, putting our creativity to work. To be an innovative thinker, be open to new ideas, be curious, step outside your comfort zone, actively listen and research, embrace diversity, appreciate others' unique qualities, practice empathy, and put those ideas, concepts, and prototypes to work.
In that journal, I listed several ways that I could make my backyard better. 3 things stood out. 1, the amount of birds in our backyard and what types they were. Second of all, these reusable, recyclable bottles. We have several in our house. And third, my neighbors. I need to make sure that I have an attitude of gratitude and give back to my neighbors. This was the perfect way to have those ideas come together. That's right, birds, bottles, an attitude of gratitude to design a great innovation. Take a look at what we decided.
And here's how those bird feeder water bottles were created.
And here is our final implementation of our innovative idea. It's the perfect time for attitude of gratitude. Let's go ahead and deliver this to a neighbor's house. Creativity and innovation we were able to implement with an attitude of gratitude. Scholars, science is everywhere, and even in our backyard. Until next time.
Hey everybody, Mrs. Bowden here from Andover, Kansas. When people think of creativity, they don't always think of math. Creativity doesn't always have to involve colorful arts and crafts. Did you know that creativity is a crucial part of mathematics? Creativity is embedded in problem solving. As mathematicians, we have to be creative in finding new ways to approach and solve problems. In mathematics, we use creativity to find multiple methods that work best for your brain. Sometimes collaborating with our peers can help. Think of the power of multiple minds working together towards one goal. Problem solving isn't always easy. It challenges us. It can be frustrating, rewarding, exciting. It's important that when things start to get difficult, we acknowledge how we are feeling and make sure we safely get back to a state of progressing towards our solution. Emotions and feelings are all part of the learning process. Creative questions often lead us closer to the final destination. Creativity makes us wonder why or how something works. Being brave to ask questions and to reflect on the result can advance your solution findings. Sometimes along the way, we make mistakes. Mistakes allow us to look at our situation from a different angle and start to get closer to our final answer and solutions. We can learn from what we've done wrong to move us forward. I like to call this failing forward. Math helps us create while completing everyday tasks and activities such as cooking, counting, building, or playing music. I am oftentimes inspired by the stories that numbers tell, which allow me to brainstorm and create a positive change. Next time you encounter a problem, use your problem-solving skills, keep a positive mindset, and don't be afraid to fail. Until next time.
Hey parents, you're doing great! With Kansas school buildings closed and homes being turned into classrooms, parents and caregivers have expanded their roles in their students' learning. This is a new experience for most of us, so let's show one another a little grace. When you and your students start to feel overwhelmed or stressed, take a break. It's really okay. Keeping students interested and engaged in learning is the key to success. Remember, you have an entire community of fellow caregivers and teachers to lean on. Reach out. Together, Kansans can.
Welcome back to Learning Across Kansas. I'm your host, Mrs. Smoke. Did you know that in the book, The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy didn't wear ruby slippers? She actually wore silver shoes, and these were symbols to show the value of silver in early 20th century America. Author Frank Baum was a collector of antique silver, and he wrote in his original book that the silver shoes could never wear out, and they would change size by shrinking or stretching perfectly to fit whoever wore them. Now that is creative thinking. Next, let's travel through more innovation in Kansas history with Mr. Barrickmo and discuss storytelling magic with Mr. Wolf. Psst, you'll need a sheet of paper for Mr. Wolf's story, so grab one now if you have it.
I know there must be something better. Whoa, hey there everybody. You might have recognized that. That was In the City from Joe Walsh, a Kansas native, born in Wichita, Kansas, and wonderful example of creativity and innovation. What we have here in Kansas is absolutely amazing in terms of our history. You can look at music and see people from Joe Walsh to Janelle Monáe. We've also got some great innovators like Omar Kandelic, and he was the man who invented the icy. Coffeyville, Kansas Dairy Queen owner, didn't have a soda machine, so he did his own thing and invented his own drink. And people love that frozen carbonated beverage. Let's learn about some more creative and innovative thinkers from Kansas history. Working here in Bailey Hall in 1905, Hamilton Cady and David McFarland discovered significant amounts of helium in a natural gas sample from Dexter, Kansas. This discovery was so significant in the science community because before this we thought that helium was rare on Earth. but abundant in the sun. The fact that it was discovered in huge quantities here in Kansas and on the Great Plains meant an economic boom for farmers and miners across the area. The discovery of helium is a wonderful example of what we might call the multiplier effect. If we take a look at helium as an example, it's used today in military uses, hospital treatments, MRI machines, fiber optics, computer chips, microchips, welding, airbags. And when we look at the multiplier effect, that one piece of that one industry and that one invention then ripples out all the way throughout our economy, making the economy grow and making that innovation so much more powerful. There are so many great examples of Kansas innovators throughout our history. Charlie Bird Parker from Kansas City, Kansas, George Washington Carver, a homesteader out in Ness County, Kansas, and the first inventors of the helicopter, William Purvis and Charles Wilson out in Goodland, Kansas. But one of the most famous Kansans. In the winter of 1891, Dr. Naismith was charged with developing a game that would keep his young male students from tackling and becoming too physical during gym classes at the YMCA. His 13 simple rules for basketball, named after the peach baskets used for the goals, would become a classic American sport. He came to the University of Kansas in 1898 and began the storied University of Kansas basketball program as its first coach and athletic director. Even though he was the only coach in KU basketball history with a losing record, he put Kansas and the Jayhawks on the map and set up a legacy of success in college basketball. Necessity is the mother of invention, and together with this father of basketball, he made it a powerful impact on Kansas, our nation, and the world.
Creativity and English language arts. They go together like peanut butter and jelly, like Mork and Mindy, like bacon and eggs, like butter and popcorn. Creativity lives within communication, the writing and the reading of ideas and texts. And today I hope to show you a little piece of origami paired with a narrative story and with a little sprinkle of magic at the end. Let's get started. You need an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper for this project. What you're going to do is you're going to fold it in half first and listen to this story. Once upon a time, there was this boy named Brad, and Brad collected t-shirts. And anywhere he would go, he would get a souvenir t-shirt. So if his family went to Branson, what would Brad pick out for a souvenir? Yep, a t-shirt. Fold it in so you can have two triangles like this, and the opening's still here at the bottom. And Brad wanted all of these t-shirts so that he could have one of his friends sew him up a t-shirt quilt to represent all of the places that Brad had been. And this time you're going to fold the first lip up and do the same side for the second one. Same thing for the second one. And one day for his birthday, Brad's dad got Brad a sailor's hat. And he said, "Ahoy, Brad. We are going to go sailing." Brad put that sailor's hat on and said, "Dad, this is awesome. It's a little too big, but this is awesome." And Brad's dad said, "Wait, bud, there's another present in there." So he keeps on looking around. This time you're going to take that sailor's hat and you're going to make it a square. And fold it like so. And then the bottom comes out like this. And you're going to fold the first part up and the second part up. So you have a smaller sailor's hat. And Brad found a smaller sailor's hat, just his size, right in that package. And he's like, "Dad, yes, we're going to go sailing." And Brad's dad said, "Do you want to ask Grandpa?" And Brad thought about it and he said, "Well, Grandpa's 80 years old. I don't know if he wants to go sailing, but I'll ask him." So they went over to Grandpa's house and they said, "Gramps, you know that you're 80, but do you want to go sailing with us? Like pirates?" And Grandpa said, "Hi, matey." Anyway, back to Brad. He got his hat on, and they got a canoe, and they went to a lake, and they got matching t-shirts for Brad's souvenir collection. And if you take your little sailor's hat and pull it out the ends like this, just pull what you have, and it'll make a canoe. And they went sailing, just Brad and his dad, on the little river, and they got a little ahead of themselves and they hit a rock. And it busted off, and you can rip off the tip of their boat, and it spun around and bumped into another rock, and it ripped that part off. You can rip that off, and then came out of control and went down and bottom, and a little top on your boat you can rip off, and they were drowning. But an onlooker called 911, and both Brad and his dad could swim, and they were wearing life jackets, and so the onlooker that could swim, and the emergency help came and dove down and found the first thing that they found. If you open up your piece of paper, you'll see the very first thing that they found was this t-shirt. In your journals this week, write a resolution, an ending to that story. What happens to Brad and his dad? What happens to the t-shirt? Be creative.
Now that we've been talking creativity across the curriculum, we're going to give you a couple of innovative thinking challenges. First up is Coach Martinez in Dodge City, and then Counselor Schrader in Meriden. Take it away, Coach.
Hello, Kansas. I don't think we need to be reminded of the interesting times we're all living in and the challenges that come with it. We see it every time we turn on the TV. It's in everybody's topic of conversation. But let's address the elephant in the room either way. The quarantine due to the coronavirus. Most of us are facing many changes. And as we navigate through our new normal, we may have to get creative on how we go about doing our daily lives. Which brings me to my next question. Where can our creativity and our spirit of innovation take us? How far are we willing to let us push us? I'm confident we can meet that challenge. Follow me. And as we remain indoors, our physical activity is probably taking a toll. But I can't go outside. I can't even go play with my friends. So what do? For today's activity, we will be concentrating on high interval training, or HIIT for short, of high knees, push-ups, sit-ups, and planks. And there you have it, my friends. Feel free to play around with any of the movement combinations that we just covered. As long as you're being creative, getting your blood flowing, and getting some physical activity. Here's the challenge. How creative can you get? Can you come up with your own workout? Can you invite your mom and dad? That is a challenge. See you on the flip side, Kansas.
I hope after watching today's episode, you have been inspired to get out there and try some new ideas. We saw so many examples of people who got out of their comfort zone and pursued their passions with creativity and innovation. All of these inspiring stories got me thinking about one of my favorite picture books titled, What Do You Do With an Idea?, written by Kobe Yamada and illustrated by May Basom. This book tells the compelling story of a boy who has an idea. However, he doesn't shout it from the hilltops with pride immediately. In fact, there's a point in his story where he admits that he tries to run away from his idea because others may think it odd or different, even though he says the idea made him feel happier when it was around. For some, bursting through the door with your new idea is easy, as some are just naturally confident. Others might try to be like the main character in the book I just talked about and keep your idea a secret or even try to run away from it. During times like these, it's so important to have confidence. The phrase self-efficacy is often used when talking about confidence. Simply put, self-efficacy is believing in yourself. And research shows that self-efficacy is one of the biggest predictors of whether a person will be successful in a task. So in other words, the more you believe in yourself, the higher the chance that you will be successful. One way to increase those odds is to change the way you talk to yourself. Your internal monologue, or your self-talk, is happening all day, every day. I want you to think for a minute. When you walk into the gym or on the field for a big game or sit down to take a test, or you walk into the room to have that important conversation with your parents, what do you usually say to yourself? Is it positive or is it negative? Positive self-talk is just one way to increase your self-efficacy and boost your confidence. Henry Ford once said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Your attitude and self-talk play a strong role in your success.
Oh, and remember that book I talked about earlier? You know what that boy did with his idea? He changed the world.
Creativity and innovation, just two of the great characteristics to help make Kansas move forward. No, it doesn't take a wizard or an emerald city to help us find our way in the future. Just like Dorothy discovered that she had the power inside of her all along, so do you, my friends. It's you who will help us reimagine industry, education, agriculture, and technology. Yes, it's you who we think of when we say, there's no place like home. That's our show for today. I hope you've enjoyed this learning journey across the yellow brick road of Kansas. Learning Across Kansas has been a partnership between the Kansas State Department of Education and the Kansas Public Broadcasting Service. Until next time, scholars, keep innovating and creating.